Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. So again, we're going to be doing this live Q&A. I'm going to start with a question that someone submitted from Instagram because they were not going to be able to make it live. So their question was, how can you differentiate between anxiety and intuition? And that's a great question. So definitely one of the things to keep in mind when, we're having either anxiety or intuition would definitely be to ground yourself because basically your higher self is communicating with you in whatever energy center of your body it's able to communicate with you. So, say for example, we have 7 chakras and whatever one is super open is the one it's going to communicate with you. So if it is your third eye, then maybe you're going to receive that message through your third eye or kind of in your clear audience. But for some people, it could be their heart. For some people, it could be their gut. So sometimes that gut feeling is coming from your higher self. So I should have grabbed the book before, but in the Pleiadian workbook, I actually have the meditation here on YouTube of how to connect with your higher self. And if you imagine that your higher self is behind you and each of its energy centers are connecting to the energy centers of yours, it will communicate with you through that. So if you're someone who's not good at listening to your intuition, you might get more of a stomach ache when you're getting that information because that's the energy center that it's able to connect with you through. Now, another thing too is really important when we come to differentiating anxiety from intuition is heart coherence. So I talk about this, maybe not as much now, but I have talked about it a lot in the past. Heart coherence is so important because it was originally a method developed by the Heart Math Institute, made popular by Joe Dispenza and others. And it's so simple. You put your hand on your heart, breathe into your heart, close your eyes, ground yourself for a second, breathing into the heart center, and then think of like what they call like a heart positive memory. So I say either a good memory, something that makes you happy, something that makes you a good memory, a person or a animal that you love. And then this way, think about it and keep breathing into the heart center while you think about it. You could do it for about 1 minute, 90 seconds. And then your brain waves are going to be aligned with your heart waves. And it'll be a lot easier to tell the difference. Now, if you are someone who has overactive anxiety, then you're going to have to start to kind of talk yourself off the ledge with those things. Am I just thinking of the worst case scenario? Or is this actually something bad that's gonna happen? So it just takes a little bit of practice, but usually you'll be able to know if you're feeling it a lot in, like, your body and your chest and stuff like that, there's a chance that it's anxiety that's just living in the body too. So that's why, you really have to try to get centered before you jump to conclusions about what it is. What is the truth? Used to struggle with your intuition and then learned all about stored trauma in the gut and had to release that trauma through somatic ways to make space for gut intuition and communication with yourself. Yes. So I talked about it a little bit before last year that I never really experienced anxiety. Like I sort of did, but I never like knew that's what was happening. Like I'd be like, oh gosh, I can't breathe for no reason at all. Oh well. Anyway, and so I never really experienced anxiety because I didn't know that that's even what was happening. And then after I did ayahuasca the first time, those 4 ceremonies and came back from Costa Rica, 3 months later, I had severe anxiety all of a sudden out of nowhere for no reason. And it was like in my shoulders, in my neck, it was my head. I just felt it all over my body. And I really think that part was important for me, but it was also really important for me to be like, wow, this is what people are experiencing. I had no idea, but this is what people are experiencing. I don't know why probably my that looks a little bit better. My My TikTok looked all, like, foggy. My camera was probably dirty. Yes, you're right, Natasha. Don't hesitate to ask your guides for assistance. You've realized for yourself, and it's also a way to try to get that they're trying to get your attention. That's so true. So, also, if you're not sure if it's anxiety or your intuition, you can always ask for another type of clarification, you know? Ground yourself for a second and say, like, listen, I really need my guides or my higher self or something, the universe, to give me some guidance here. Give me a sign. You can pick what the sign is. Say you pick an animal or an object or a word or something, you know, and then let a little bit of time pass and see if that comes up at all. The Body Keeps a Score was really helpful book that turned stored trauma in the body. Ayahuasca told you that all your trauma was locked in your gut, calcified and stuck. Yeah. You developed really good intuition and now you don't ask for any advice. You're struggling now for people to trust your decisions. Well, you know what? That's on them. Okay, so I have a couple of books and stuff here. I will answer questions as they come up, but I have a couple of different. I thought it would be fun to do a little synchronicity stuff too. So we can, like, okay, so give me a first. I'll pull a little card for us of what we from the animal apothecary deck for a little guidance for us right now. What do we need to know? But I also have a whole stack of books here. I'm not going to tell you which book it is, but you guys give me a page number and I'll open to that page and see what pops up. Okay, so what came out was the victory card. Victory, the victory card. So let me read this for us and then I'll get numbers for the. Oh, okay. They're already sending numbers over here. Okay. The falcon. The falcon heralds victory on the horizon. She dares you to accept challenges. Now you must focus like the falcon on the end goal and discipline yourself to actualize your inner vision. There's no time for mindless activities. Focus like a laser on what needs to be done and do it. Something special is waiting to be developed, but it requires your steadfast commitment. What you most desire may take months or years, but don't rush for completion. Timing will play in your favor if you endure the long journey. The Falcon's medicine shares that the key to your victory is discipline. Do not lean on motivation to carry you through because on your journey, motivation will often vanish for a time, but you must discipline yourself to push through no matter what. What you desire is attainable, and what you long to do in this life is yours, but you must work for it. The Falcon's medicine suggests create a commitment of 20 minutes a day working towards your goal. Now more than ever, it is the time that you must take steadfast action and have unwavering faith, and you will succeed. Do not give up. Keep going. Something beyond your wildest dreams awaits you to capture it. The Falcon's medicine is an honor to have chosen on your spread today. It brings the medicine of victory, but remember, it comes to you through your discipline. Okay, so I see someone saying 44 here, and I also just saw 44 on this screen on TikTok. So let's go to page 44 of the first book. Okay, so the first book is Conversations with Nostradamus by Dolores Cannon. Victory is mine and ours with effort and consistency. Yes. Okay, page 44 in the Dolores Cannon book. Okay, page 44. Let's see. Wow. Okay. So it says, okay, so what's happening in this book, as you guys know, Dolores Cannon let me come this way a little bit so that I'm more in the frame of TikTok. Dolores Cannon, as you guys know from this book, from my Apocalypse series, she puts someone under hypnosis, QHHT hypnosis, and then the woman goes to a past life where she's a student of Nostradamus. So this is the part. Oh, I think they were Nostradamus. I mean, I know they were. I do know they were. That was really something. They were so much more magnificent than anything I had ever seen, but it was like his eyes were telling me I have work to do. That was, the woman in the past life as she was under hypnosis. I chuckled. "Oh, yes, he gave us an assignment, all right." Val also laughed. "It was quite the assignment." "Oh?" Elena laughed. "Well, are you going to tell me?" This session had been very exciting, and this is Dolores saying. This session had been very exciting and unbelievable, but it had been Val's first experience of this type. She could hardly contain herself and had been bursting to tell Elena what happened. I had made her wait until Elena told me any memories she had about the session because I didn't want them to be colored by anything we might say. I now let Val bubbling pour out her enthusiastic report of the session to Elena. We told her about the important assignment she had been given and the instructions that Nostradamus wanted her to follow. But when we finished, it was obvious that Elena did not share our enthusiasm. She sat in a deep thought and finally spoke. "Do you mean he wants me to translate quatrains that will predict the future of our world? Gee, that's an awful responsibility. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I want to do that." Interesting. Okay, so funny that that's coming up. Um, so funny that that's coming up. Am I using tarot books as Nostradamus book? Yeah, I do. I have this is from it was called the Native American Tarot deck, and it was my first deck that I ever got. And now I just use it as bookmarks. And I have a bunch in here in this book. Okay, so that was pretty interesting, right? Like that's the beginning of Dolores working with Nostradamus. How cool is that coming up? Okay. Another page number, another page number. We have another book that is in the list right here, but I will not show you the book. But I'll tell you, you can go up to page 340. Up to page 340. Okay. I'm going to go with this one. Indie Kins 172. Oh, it happens to be part 2 of the Nostradamus series. 172. Okay, let's see here. 172. Here's a synchronicity moment for us. Let's see what it comes up. Interesting. Okay. So let's see what it's saying on the page before we go to this quatrain. Okay, so this quatrain is the one that is on this page. So the 5 foreigners, having entered the temple, their blood will desecrate the land. The example made of the Teleusians will be very hard, made by man who comes to wipe out their laws. Okay. Like I don't know what's on this page, so don't have a panic attack if you don't like what it says, okay? I'm just saying because I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff in this book that I never covered in the Apocalypse series that has to do with Israel and Palestine. Like literally so much of the Nostradamus books have a lot to do with Israel Palestine. Okay, so this is what that quatrain means. This refers to a Jewish temple that is built in Israel. Muslim fanatics will try to desecrate it because it will be built on one of their sacred sites. He says this will be taking place in the 1990s after an earthquake hits the Holy Land. In the process of the quake, the temple of the Dome of the Rock, which is a Muslim mosque or temple, will be destroyed. As a result, a new Jewish temple will be built, and because it is built on the site of their sacred land, the Muslim fanatics disguised as Jews will desecrate the temple by committing ritual suicide within it. He says this will be a signal for the advancement of the Antichrist in the Arab world, and this will be a war cry that will lead to the Battle of Armageddon. Interesting. Okay, so someone channeled Dolores Cannon on one of these YouTube channels. They did like a channeling of Dolores, and they asked about the time frames and what is the difference with the time frames. Like basically, and I had talked about this once before, but she said a lot of the stuff that she was talking about that would be coming is 15 years behind. Now she was alive, obviously, at the time, so I don't know if this is later in time, but okay, let's see. Is this one of the earthquakes that will happen during the time of upheavals? He says the earthquake will happen before this. Then the temple will be rebuilt. It will be a beautiful replica of an ancient temple of Solomon because the mosque was on the original site of Solomon's temple. It will be built very quickly, and the Arabs won't have a chance to reclaim their sacred site. When it's completed, it will be desecrated by the blood of infidels. The Jews will be considered infidels. This in turn is like a beacon for the Arab world and for the leadership of the Antichrist, which will be very active in the Arab world at that time. Is this the man who comes to wipe out their laws? It also refers to the Israeli army battling the Antichrist's forces. Dolores. The translators say that this refers to the Battle of Toulouse in the 1800s. Well, Toulouse is another name for the French who will be involved in this. Is that what it means by the example made of the Toulousians? Toulousians were also heretics of the time period, and this relates to that. He says that in your time period, you don't use the word heretic, but he does. This is an area of France near where he lives, and Toulouse is the center of. John had difficulty with the next word. It was strange to him. Albanians? Albanian something? He says the church persecuted these people. The connection is that the other people will be fanatics posing as French Jewish tourists who will come to the dedication of the temple, but they're not. They're Arabs who will commit a ritual suicide on the steps of the temple and desecrate it. Wow. Pretty dark there. Pretty dark there. Okay, next book. It's not a Nostradamus book. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, next one. The next book goes up to one 167. So anything between 1 and 167. Okay. Okay, 79. Here we go. Page 79. This book is The Science and the Akashic Field. Science and the Akashic Field. Okay, there is on page 79, nothing. So I'm going to go with this person who said 76. Let's go back 2 pages. 76. Okay. In Sanskrit and Indian cultures, Akasha is an all encompassing medium that underlies all things and becomes all things. It is real, yet so subtle that cannot be perceived until it becomes the many things that populate and manifest the world. Our bodily senses do not register Akasha, but we can reach it through spiritual practice. The ancient rishis reached it through a disciplined spiritual way of life and through yoga. They described their experience and made Akasha an essential element and of the philosophy of the mythology of India. In the 20th century, the Akasha has been brilliantly described by the great Indian Yogi Swami. According to the philosophers, this is like a quote from, it's a quote now. According to the philosophers of India, the whole universe is composed of 2 materials, one which they call the Akasha. It is an omnipresent, all penetrating existence. Everything that has form, everything is a result of the combination, is evolved out of this Akasha. It is the Akasha that becomes the air and becomes the liquids and becomes the solids. It is the Akasha that becomes the sun, the earth, the moon, the stars, the comets. It is the Akasha that becomes the human body, the animal body, the plants, and every form of everything that we see and everything that can be sensed, everything that exists. It cannot be perceived. It is so subtle that it is beyond all ordinary perception. It can only be seen when it has become gross and taken its form. At the beginning of creation, there is only Akasha. At the end cycle, the solid, the liquids, the gases all melt into the Akasha again, and the creation similarly proceeds out of this Akasha. Mm. You wonder if Akasha is what science calls plasma. I think the Akasha is consciousness. Wormhole, the Akasha with the Nostradamus has merged. So is Akasha life force and Akashic records is the reading of the books? Okay, so what's cool about this? So which book was this? It was called Science and the Akashic Field. So we know that we have the Akashic records, right? So the Akashic records is, you know, kind of considered to be this ethereal library. But not everybody believes that this is a place. This is in every single cell, in every atom. So the Akashic records are here. We just see it as a library in order for us to understand. So it's in everything. And you know what's interesting is I just reposted the clip from my hypnosis with Sarah Brexman Cosme, and I say that in the clip because she says, "What was before the Big Bang?" And the answer is nothing. But then it said, "We think this is a pattern," which I believe that very strongly now because then I did the ayahuasca and the ayahuasca showed it to me. But in that hypnosis was the first time that I had really maybe processed that concept that the universe is not nothing. And then like maybe I had thought of it before, but I never had like clarity on it where it's nothing and then becomes everything and then becomes nothing again. And it said that maybe I didn't post that part. Maybe that was the second part of the video. But basically, it says that she's like, okay, well, where is the higher self getting the information from? Who do you ask for this information? And the answer was, we don't need to ask anyone. The answer is in everything. It says what we would call atoms, what we would call these micro materials, these mini materials that make up everything, that holds light, that creates us. That's where the information is. So it's interesting when yeah, I don't think I actually posted that part, but it is in the whole thing, which is on YouTube, which it says she says, "Who do you ask for this information? Who do you go to?" And it said the information is in every cell of everything. You had that experience completely sober where it was everything and nothing. You remember hearing that the Akashic records were physical during the time of Atlantis. That's interesting. What do you think of the book Conversations with God? Well, it's on the list. It's in the pile. It's in the pile. So we will be going to something with that. Interesting. Okay. All right. The next book, let's see. The next book goes up to page, it's a shorty, 130. 130. 130. Anything between 1 and 130. Okay, we have Kayla says 54. Okay, let's go to page 54. We're going to None Dare Call It Conspiracy. None Dare Call It Conspiracy. Now this one is it's a fragile book. It's a fragile book, but we'll do it. Oh, here's page 54. Look, I opened up to it. Okay. So this book is about conspiracies within the government and it's very old, original print. Okay. So this is a quote from Ferdinand Lundberg. Okay. Well, actually, let's read what it says before it. Money were made available, the mass media began to ballyhoo tales of instant riches and made it in the stock to be made in the stock market. According to Ferdinand Lundberg, his quote, for profits to be made on these funds, the public had to be induced to speculate, and it was so induced by misleading newspaper accounts, many of them bought and paid for by the brokers that operated the pools. Okay. Then this goes back to the book, not a quote. The House hearings on stabilization of the purchasing power of the dollar disclosed evidence in 1928 that the Federal Reserve Board was working closely with the heads of European central banks. The committee warned that a major crash had been planned in 1927 at a secret luncheon at the Federal Reserve Board and the heads of the European central banks. The committee warned that the international bankers were tightening the noose. Montague Norman, governor of the Bank of England, came to Washington on February 6, 1929, to confer with Andrew Mellon, Secretary of Treasury. On November 11th, 1927, the Wall Street Journal described Mr. Norman as the currency dictator of Europe. Professor Carol Quigley notes that Norman, a close confidant of J.P. Morgan, admitted, I hold the hegemony of the world. Immediately after this mysterious visit, the Federal Reserve reversed its easy money policy and began raising the discount rate. The balloon, which had been inflated constantly for nearly 7 years, was about to be exploded. On October 24th, the feathers hit the fan, writing the United States' unsolved monetary and political problems. William Bryan describes what happened. When everything was ready, the New York financiers started calling 24-hour broker call loans. This meant that the stockbrokers and the customers had to dump their stock on the market in order to pay the loans. This naturally collapsed the stock market and brought the banking collapse all over the country because the banks not owned by the oligarchy were heavily involved in broker call claims at this time, and the bank runs soon exhausted their coin and currency, and they had to close the Federal Reserve System. Not only did they have to come to their aid, although they were instructed under the law to maintain elastic currency. The investigating public, included most stockbrokers and bankers, took a horrendous blow in the crash, but not the insiders. They were either out of the market or had sold short so that they made enormous profits as the Dow Jones plummeted. For those who knew the score, a comment by Paul Warburg had provided the warning to the sell. The signal came on March 9th, 1929, when the Financial Chronicle quoted Warburg as giving the sound advice. Okay. They crashed. They caused the Great Depression on purpose. Thanks, Zark. This is a fun way to spark ideas and conversation. Interesting. So the current inflation bubble will pop, and be prepared for the 1% fuckery with the stock market. You got a recommendation for the channel, The Y Files. It's all conspiracy theories that are informative. Someone told me that that I should make my page like The Y Files. I haven't watched it yet, though. Um, a lot of people saying 9. So let's go with number 9 in the next book, because we have multiple people saying 9. Let's see here. Okay, number 9. Okay. From the Transylvanian Sunrise. It was after 4 o'clock in the morning that I found myself in the backseat of a van that was not only ascending the Alps of Transylvania, but was going to do so at a very rapid pace. The date was July 29th, 2008, and all I could see were deeply forested hills to either side of the short span of the rugged paved road that lay ahead. The higher the elevation, the more precarious the road conditions became, and the more the Romanian driver seemed to push on the accelerator. It was only then that I began to fully realize that I had just flown halfway around the world and was in a very strange country. Not only that, I was in the backyard of Dracula's famous realm. Looking at my two companions, I sensed that they might be having similar thoughts. My two companions were Tantra Bensko and Dr. Joe Castellanos. Tantra is a multi-talented artist who asked to accompany me for the purpose of taking video footage. Joel is a professor of mathematics at the University of New Mexico and specializes in a branch of chaos theory that is known as fractals. Earlier, during our journey at the airport in Bucharest, we had joked about Joel being likened to the chaos scientist in the movie Jurassic Park. Now, as we traveled at a rapid clip up of the Alps in Transylvania, the atmosphere was a little bit more tension packed. The joke was revisited, but it was less funny and a little more serious. And then there's also a picture. The Romanian Sphinx, the Sphinx in Romania. Okay. No way you're reading this. What book is this? That was Transylvanian Sunrise. That was Transylvanian Sunrise. Okay. The next book. This book goes all the way up to like page 420. So between 1 and 420. Okay, 111. 111. Let's do it. 111. Here we go. We have a very interesting little theme going on here today. Okay. Huh. Okay. Executive orders are listed. Oh, this one is, by the way, Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. Executive orders are listed in the Federal Register or presidential findings, which are made known to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. The most important difference between the presidential executive orders and that of all others, no matter what they are called, is that others do not have to be reported, reviewed, and made available to anyone or even acknowledged that they exist. There is no oversight whatsoever that could maintain a check on the legality of these national security directives. The president and others within the executive branch have used these super secret directives to skirt the balance of power and to write law without anyone's knowledge. Justification of the president's power to write law through the executive orders stems from the failure of the government to rescind the declaration of martial law during the Civil War. In effect, the United States has been under martial law ever since Lincoln's administration. These NSDs, which I'm assuming is the national security directives it said earlier, are powerful, hidden, and dangerous tools, and they were prolific during the Reagan administration. Over 300 were written, with no more than 50 ever linking out to undergo public scrutiny. Yet most Americans have never heard of these subversive weapons. They are being used to destroy our Constitution. I believe that everyone should know that this is a corruption of the government. Congress has turned a blind eye to these abuses of executive power. At 3:30 a.m., August 4th, 1990, the Senate made it even easier for the executive branch to subvert the Constitution and may have made George Bush the first American king. At the time, at that time, on that day, a minority of United States senators, maybe 10 at most, passed the Senate Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 1991, SB 2834. This bill will fundamentally change our constitutional system and threatens to destroy the very foundation of our great nation. Since attention has been focused upon the Middle East crisis, the public and most congressmen know absolutely nothing about this bill. The bill was fraudulently introduced as a reform to prevent future incidents of the abuses brought to light during the Iran-Contra scandal. Instead of preventing future abuses, however, it virtually authorizes essentially every abuse. The bill was carefully brought to vote by Senator Sam Nunn, and in the dead of the night, when the opposition was gone, it effectively transfers the most authority over the United States government directly into the hands of George Bush and thus directly into the hands of the secret government. The president, presently George Bush, Sr., obviously, has given the power to initiate war, appropriate public funds, define policy goals, and decide what is important for our national security. In an oversight of intelligence activities, Title 7 SB 2834 authorizes the following: gives the president power to initiate covert actions. This has never been seen before given to the president. It prevents Congress from stopping the president's initiation of covert actions and allows the president to use any federal departments or agencies or entities to operate or finance a covert operation. It empowers the president to use any other nation or private contractor or person to fund and operate a covert operation. It redefines covert operations as necessary to support foreign policy objectives of the United States, a definition that is so vague and so broad that it is essentially unlimited and for the first time officially claims the right of the United States to secretly interfere with the international, political, economic, or military affairs of other countries in direct and flagrant violation of international law, and requires that the president prepare and deliver a written finding of the and finding to the intelligence committees of the Congress, which allows the president to admit extremely sensitive matters, and it authorizes the president to claim executive privilege if Congress asks too many questions. There are no penalties in the bill for violating any of its provisions, including the provision of requiring a finding. Why should there be? This bill is literally handed the power of all the branches of government to the president on a silver platter. President Bush is now truly an American king. The first SB 2834 gives Bush the power to use any agency or branch of government and his appropriated funds of any agency or any branch of the government for covert action, even if they never appropriated it for that purpose. Interesting. Yes, behold a pale horse. Very interesting. We have a weird theme going on. This is not where I saw this going today. Okay. So before we move on, I have 3 other books. Let's pull one more card. But this is a very interesting little theme. We have space for you in the compound, Jen. Yeah. Let's pull one other card because we have a weird theme going on here. We have a lot of corruption and government secrets, secrecy. Okay, but in the meantime, let's pull a card and see what this is about. The guides are helping us prepare for the end of times. Right. It's interesting with all the political stuff. I wonder if it's, I mean, obviously the books that I picked are a little bit, but even the Nostradamus books, like it went very political. Interesting. Let's see. What is the message about this? What is the message that we are getting about all of this stuff coming up? Is this connected to, let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Earth. Okay. Earth came up. Let's pull one more for clarity. Let's see. Let's get a second card because this is interesting. Earth. We're like, it's 7 days to election day. The veil is thin. You love this deck. What is the name? It's the Sacred Symbols Oracle deck by Marcella Kroll. Let's get one more for clarity. Earth. We're like, uh-oh, what does this mean? We're like, why are we getting all of these strange cards? Oh, okay. Growth. Okay. Growth. Interesting. Okay, let's read these. 11. The tangible world and all of its physical nature. What you see, feel, and touch invites you to participate in enjoying it, inviting Earth's energy into your current situation and bringing more stability into this time. Be kind to this temple of the physical body that is home to you and your soul. It requires adequate nutrition and rest. Meditate on this symbol when you want more of a connection to the physical plane and validation that all is here in this 3-dimensional world with you. Honor it, see it, feel it, experience it, and with love and respect. And let's see what they want us to know between this growth card, and then we can interpret it. Growth. A time of evolution and growth is here. You might be leaving behind outdated and antiquated relationships, mentors, beliefs, systems, situations, or environments. If you are inquiring about a situation or relationship, this card tells you to go for a deeper commitment or a decision and let go in order to honor your journey. Draw another card for clarity about which direction to take regarding your situation. This card represents knowing and all will be well and it all is working out for the highest good. The spiral is one of the oldest designs to appear in all ages, even as far back as prehistoric times. The symbol of growth and evolution, it is a sacred symbol that represents the cycle and the journey of humankind. Wow, that's pretty interesting. So, having all this stuff come up in these books that we're looking at today, and then we say, okay, why is all of this stuff about election, about Congress, about wars, about stuff? Why was that all coming up in these books? And then the 2 cards that we get for clarity on why is this stuff coming out? Earth and growth. So this is my interpretation of it. I'm seeing some different people. Oh, that's funny. The Earth looking like the Federal Reserve symbol upside down. That's so funny. So what I'm getting from this, from these 2 messages coming out, is we have a lot of stuff going on Earth right now. We have the election coming up. We have wars. We have all of these different things going on. The message that I'm getting, take it or leave it, is telling us to experience it and that this is part of the growth. that, I know it's very easy for us in the spiritual space to be avoidant of some of the problems in the world, to look away, to say we have other things to worry about. And it's not telling you to worry about it. But I think this is some reassurance. It's showing us that there's growth happening here on earth. So as we look at the things that are maybe coming in the next few weeks to months, we have from November to January is going to be a crazy thing, right? Whoever's going to win or lose this election, it's going to be debated, it's going to be contested. We already know it's going to hit the fan, okay? We already know that. Anyone with half a little bit of intuition knows that it's about to hit the fan. Whoever wins, whoever loses, people are going to be upset, people are going to be angry, and from November to January, we're going to have a lot of conflict happening. So the message that I'm getting from this, especially combined with all of those like kind of political, geopolitical conspiracy things that have come up about Federal Reserve, about economic collapse, about presidents taking too much power around Israel, Palestine. All of those things are very interesting to come up right now. I feel like it's us telling us in the spiritual space to understand what's happening is happening. It's happening for the highest good. It has to play out. It might look ugly. It might be stressful, but it is what it is. And we're here to be here for this time on earth. The only way through is next chapter is Pluto and Aquarius for 20 years. So changes are coming, whether we like it or not. Enjoy the ride and grow yourselves with the collective will grow too, right? Okay. So the next 3 books don't have anything political in them, as far as I know. Okay, so let's go back to the books. I won't tell you what the next book is, but you can pick between pages 1 and 270. Between 1 and 270. 1 and 270. Just looking forward to no political ads. Okay. All right, 222 for Elena. Okay. 222. All right, we're switching gears. It's gonna be Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, a classic, beautiful. Okay. Mhm. Okay, look. We'll just start from here. Okay. Unchallenging life overloads themselves with turmoil in the next one to catch up on their learning goals. The soul mind is far from infallible and it works in conjunction with the biological mind. Regardless of our soul level, being human means we will all make mistakes and have the necessity of engaging in mid course corrections during our lives. This will be true with any body we select. Before taking up more complex mental factors in a soul's decision to join with the brain of a human body, I will begin with the physical aspects of body choice, meaning body choice that we choose before we're born. Despite the fact that our soul knows in advance what they are going to look like, meaning before they incarnate, a national survey in the United States indicate that 90% of both males and females were dissatisfied with the physical characteristics of their body. This is the power of conscious amnesia. Much unhappiness is created by society stereotyping the ideal appearance, yet it is part of the soul's plan. How many times have we looked in the mirror and said, is this the real me? Why do I appear this way? Am I in my body where I belong? These questions are especially poignant when the type of body we have prevents us from doing the things that we think we ought to be able to do in life. I have had a number of clients who came to me convinced that their bodies prevented them from achieving satisfying lives. Many handicapped people think that that if it were not for a genetic mistake or being a victim of an accidental injury which damaged their body, their lives would be more fulfilled. As heartless as this may sound, many cases show few real accidents involving body damage which don't fall under the free will of souls. As souls, we choose our bodies for a reason. Living in damaged bodies does not necessarily have to involve karmic debt we are paying off because of past life responsibility or an injury to someone else. As my next case will demonstrate, when a soul is inside a damaged body, this choice can involve a learning path to another type of lesson. It is difficult to tell a newly injured person trying to cope with physical disablement that he or she has had the opportunity to advance at a faster rate than those with healthy bodies and minds. This knowledge must come through self discovery. The case histories of my clients convince me that the effort necessary to overcome a bodily impediment does accelerate advancement. Those of us who society deems less than perfect suffer discrimination, which makes the burden even heavier. Overcoming the obstacle of physical ailments and hurt makes us stronger for the ordeal. Many bodies are an important part of the trial we set for ourselves in these lives. The freedom of choice we have with these bodies is based far more on the psychological elements than the estimated 100,000 genes inherited by each human. However, I want to show in the opening case of this chapter why souls want certain bodies based largely on physical reasons without heavy psychological implications. The case exhibits the planning involved in the decision of a soul to be contrasting physical bodies in different lives. After this case, we will examine why souls choose their bodies for these reasons. Case 26 was a tall, proportioned woman who enjoyed participating in sports despite being bothered all life by reoccurring leg pain. During her preliminary interview, I learned the pain was a dull ache in both legs, about midway down the thigh bones. Over a period of years, she had been to a number of doctors and could find no medical evidence of anything wrong with her legs. Clearly, she was worn down and living and willing to try anything for her relief. When I heard the doctors had concluded her discomfort was probably psychosomatic, I suspected the origin of this pain might lie in a past life. Before going to the source of her problem, I decided to take my client through a couple of past lives to ascertain her motivations for body choices. And I asked her to tell me about a life in which she was happy in the human body. And she told me about being a Viking called Leth in the 800 AD. She said Leth was a child of nature who traveled by the Baltic Sea route to Western Russia. Leth was described as wearing a long, fur linked cloak and soft, form fitting animal skin pants with roped up boots and cap wrapped with metal. He carried an axe and a heavy, broad blade sword, which he wielded easily in battle. My subject was intrigued by the picture in her mind of again being this magnificently proportioned warrior with dirty strands of reddish blonde hair spilling over his shoulders. Standing well over 6 feet tall, he must have been a giant of his time with enormous strength and a huge chest and powerful limbs. A man of great endurance, Leth navigated the other Norsemen over many distances, sailing up rivers and hiking through thick virgin forests, pillaging settlements along the way. Leth was killed during a raid in looting a village. Okay. And then we go into her past life. I found out about you today, and oh my God, your content's so deep, and so happy I found your page. Oh, thanks. Hard choices yield accelerated results. I know it's very interesting things that are coming up today, right? You know, one of the things that I took out of that though is also about choosing the life. You know, maybe some people needed to hear that message of either physical ailments or mental ailments or things like that, but also the message of choosing this life altogether. And I've in conjunction to everything that came up in the other books and the other things, you know? Okay, let's pull another card. We're going to pull it from the Animal Spirit deck by Kim Kranz. And see, what is the wisdom we need? We take life too seriously. I know, Angelica, right? We do. We're taking it too seriously. It's time for us to enjoy it, you know, see what's happening, be in the experience. Oh, okay. The whale came up. The whale. Interesting. What is the whale all about? The whale. Oops. Okay. Desire to delve deeper, profound peace, and ancient wisdom. The whale represents profound emotional health and stability. The whale personalities are not afraid of emotional expression or traversing difficult terrain as they have to overcome many challenges in their life. These experiences have enriched them, given them stability, strength, and depth that is rare. Whale energy is usually linked to the feminine forces of compassion and communication. We depend on whale personalities when all else seems lost. Trust them to be a beacon during our darkest hours. When in balance, calm, steady, deeply compassionate. When out of balance, heavy, slips into the old stories. To bring into balance, regular self care. So, very interesting, right? That I feel like a lot of the messages, which this is not, the vibe I thought was going to come through today with all of this kind of randomness that we're doing. But it seems like the message is getting very like clear here is there's like a lot of shit going on in the world. It's part of the growth. We're meant to be here. We need to have our self-care, take care of ourselves, but also in some way enjoy the ride, no matter how ugly the ride looks right now. Okay, the next book, let's pick a page between 1 and 209. Between 1 and 209. Let's see, between 1 and 209. Oh, right, Sammy, 173, 173. Okay, let's see, 173. So we're looking at Conversations with God, book 1. Okay, let's see. I might start a little bit on 172 because it's halfway through the sentence. Okay. Okay. That sounds like the answer to my That sounds like the answer to my question. The soul is concerned only with where you are going to be. Are you going to be in a place called fear or are you going to be in a place called love? Where are you? And where are you coming from as you encounter life? Now, in the example of the two equally qualified workers, one is successful and the other is not because either is doing, but because of how they are both being. One person is being open, friendly, caring, helpful, considerate, cheerful, confident, and even joyful in her work, while the other is being closed, distant, uncaring, inconsiderate, grumpy, and even resentful of what she is doing. Now, suppose you were to select even loftier states of beingness. Suppose you were to select goodness, mercy, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love. What if you were to select godliness? What then would be your experience? I tell you this. Beingness attracts beingness and it produces experience. You are not on this planet to produce anything with your body. You are on this planet to produce something with your soul. Your body is simply and merely the tool of your soul. Your mind is the power that makes the body go. So, what you have here is a power tool used in the creation of the soul's desire. What is the soul's desire? Indeed, what is it? I don't know. I'm asking you. I don't know. I'm asking you. This could go on forever. It has. Wait a minute. A moment ago, you said the soul is seeking to be you. So it is. And that's the soul's desire? In the broadest sense, yes. But this me, meaning God, it is seeking to be very complex, very multidimensional, very multi-sensational, very multifaceted. There are a million aspects of me, a billion, a trillion, you see. There is a profane and profound. There is the profane and the profound, the lesser and the larger, the hollow and the holy, the ghastly and the godly, you see. Yes, yes, I see. The up and the down, the left and the right, the here and the there, the before and the after, the good and the bad. Precisely. I am the Alpha and the Omega. That was not just a pretty saying or a nifty concept. That was the truth expressed. So, in seeking being me, the soul has a grand job ahead of it, an enormous menu of beingness from which it has to choose. And that is what it is doing in this moment right now. Choosing states of being? Yes, then producing the right and perfect conditions within which to create the experience of it. It is therefore true that nothing happens to you or through you that is not for your own highest good. You mean my soul is creating all of my experiences, including not only the things I am doing, but the things that are happening to me? Let's say that the soul leads you to the right and perfect opportunities for you to experience exactly what you had planned to experience. What you actually experience is up to you. You could be what you it could be what you plan to experience, or it could be something else, depending upon what you choose. Why would I choose something I don't wish to experience? I don't know. Why would you? Do you mean that sometimes the soul wishes one thing and the body or mind wishes another? What do you think? How could the body or the mind overrule the soul? Doesn't the soul always get what it wants? The spirit of you seeks in the largest sense. That grand moment when you have conscious awareness of its wishes and join in joyful oneness with them. But the spirit will never ever force its desire on the present conscious physical part of you. The Father will not force his will upon his Son. It is a violation of his very nature to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. The Son will not force his will upon the Holy Spirit. It is against his very nature to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. The Holy Spirit will not force his will upon your soul. It is outside of the nature of the Spirit to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. Here is where the impossibilities end. The mind very often does seek to exert its will on the body, and it does so. Similarly, the body seeks often to control the mind, and it frequently succeeds. Yet the body and mind together do not have to do anything to control the soul. For the soul completely without need, unlike any body and the mind, which are shackled with it, it allows the body and the mind to have their way all the time. Indeed, the soul would have it no other way. For if the entity which is you to create and thus to know who it really is, it must be through the act of conscious violation, not the act of unconscious obedience. Obedience is not creation and thus can never produce salvation. Obedience is a response, while creation is pure choice, undictated, unrequired. Pure choice produces salvation through pure creation of the highest idea of its moment of now. Okay. Very interesting. God, the ultimate therapist responses. So very interesting, right? That it's really like this very intense message coming through with all of this stuff about how um this is our choice and this is our free will to be here, but it's up to us of how we get to be in it and how we get to experience. Wish I could read to you every night. That was lovely. What book was that? Oh, the book was Conversations with God, book 1. If you go to my YouTube playlists, there's a link of a bunch of books that I have the full audiobook for free on there, from other people's stuff. So sometimes if that person takes it down, it'll disappear from the list. But we have Conversations with God 1, 2, 3 on there. We have Journey of Souls on there and the sequel Destiny of Souls. We have Behold a Pale Horse on there. Um, and that's it from these books that I've selected today. But there's a ton of great books on there that you can listen to for free on. Also, if you have a Spotify account, now they have a bunch of audiobooks on there. So like I think I need to cancel my Audible membership because I'm paying for both, but then Audible has all these books. Okay. Our last book for today. Let's see. Which will be our final message. Our final message. And this time you can go up to page 260. From 0 to 260. 0 to 260. Mhm. Okay. 126 popped up first. 126. Let's see what our message is. 126. Oops, sorry. That was probably loud. Okay. 126. Okay, let's start a little bit on the page before because it's half of it. We've been repeating the same mistakes for hundreds of years, haven't we? For thousands of years, my son. You've been making the same mistakes for thousands of years. Humankind has not evolved in its most basic instincts much beyond the caveman era. Yet every attempt to change that is met with attempt to change that is met with scorn. Every challenge to look at your values and maybe even restructure them is greeted with fear and even anger. Now, along the way comes an idea from me to actually teach higher concepts in schools. Oh boy, now we're really treading on thin ice. Still, in highly evolved societies, that is exactly what is done. But the problem is, not all people agree on these concepts, on what they mean. And that's why we can't teach them in our schools. Parents go nuts when you try to introduce these things into the curriculum. They say you're teaching values and that the school has no place in doing such instruction. It's funny that this book is written in the 90s, but it's still very relevant today. Just like it says right here, though, we've been doing this for thousands of years. They are wrong. Again, based on what you say, as a race of people that you are trying to do, which is build a better world, they are wrong. Schools are exactly the place for such instruction because precisely because schools are detached from parents' prejudices, precisely because schools are separated from parents' preconceived notions. You've seen what has resulted on your planet from passing down the values from parent to child, and your planet is a mess. You don't understand the most basic concepts of civilized societies, and you don't know how to solve conflict without violence. You don't know how to live without fear. You don't know how to act without self-interest, and you don't know how to love without condition. These are basic understandings, and you have not begun to approach a full comprehension of them, much less implement them after thousands and thousands of years. Is there any way out of this mess? Yes, it's in your schools. It's in the education of the young. Your hope is in the next generation and the next, but you must stop immersing them in the ways of the past. Those ways have not worked. They have not taken you where you want to go. Yet, if you are not careful, you are going to get exactly where you're headed. So stop. So turn around, sit down and collect your thoughts. Create the greatest version of your greatest vision you've ever had about yourselves as a human race, and then take the values and concepts which undergird such a vision and teach them in your schools. Why not courses such as understanding power, peaceful conflict resolution, elements of loving relationships, personhood and self creation, mind, body, and spirit and how they function, engaging creativity, celebrating self, valuing others, joyous sexual expression, fairness, tolerance, diversities and similarities, ethical economics, creative consciousness and mind power, awareness and wakefulness, honesty and responsibility, visibility and transparency, science and spirituality. Much of this is taught right now. We call it social studies. I am not talking about a 2-day unit in a semester long course. I am talking about separate courses for each of these things, and I'm talking about a complete revision of your school's curriculum. I'm speaking of values based curriculum. You are now teaching is largely a fact based curriculum. I am talking about focusing your children's attention as much on understanding the core concepts and the theoretical structures around which their value system may be constructed as you now do on dates and facts and statistics. In the highly evolved societies of your galaxy and your universe, which, and then in parentheses, which societies we will be talking about in book 3. Concepts for living are taught to our offspring beginning at a very early age that you call facts, which in those societies are considered far less important. They're taught at a much later age. On your planet, you have created a society which little Johnny has learned how to read before getting out of preschool, yet hasn't learned how to stop biting his brother. And Susie has perfected her multiplication tables using flashcards and memory and in ever earlier and earlier grades, but has not learned that there is nothing shameful or embarrassing about her body. Right now, your schools exist primarily to provide answers. It would be far more beneficial if their primary function was to ask questions. What does it mean to be honest or responsible or fair? What are those implications? For that matter, what does it mean to have 2 plus 2 equals 4? What are those implications? Highly evolved societies encourage all children to discover and create those answers for themselves. But that would lead to chaos. as opposed to the non-chaotic conditions under which you now live. Okay, beautiful. Um, let's pull another card now with this. So I feel like, I really feel um, this information that's coming through is pretty interesting, right? That book was Conversations with God, book 2. Conversations with God, book 2. Very interesting, how we kind of started. I know that was obviously the nature of the books, but I didn't pick the order of them. I just threw a bunch of books that had been sitting around all together. That was interesting. Yeah, it was. So true. We still need others to agree with us on everything in order to respect and value them. We forget or never learned how to build bridges and focus on what connects. It's true. Being a parent and being in this gentle parenting movement, I see that coming to life. How cool. You just have book 1. I mean, all the books are great, and a lot of information comes up in book 1 and book 3 have the most information. Oh, okay. We got 2. Oh my god, the victory card came out again. You guys, we got this. Okay, so what was the other one? Wow, this is interesting. This was the same cards that came out in my friend's reading the other day. The same one. She got victory and the same card. Better than you can imagine. Okay, better than you can imagine. This is the message for us. Better than you can imagine, the dragonfly. Before the dragonfly becomes her most authentic self, she spends about 4 years underwater as a creepy little nymph creature. The dragonfly nymph has no comprehension of her greatness. How could a creature that lives underwater even remotely fathom that there existed an atmosphere that she had no perception of, which she would not only live in, but would fly in as well? The dragonfly brings a sacred message about your belief in the future, in your future self. She says your perception of reality is quite limited and naive, and your image of your future self is incredibly narrow, but that's okay. Just be aware of this. If you have a dream, Dragonfly is telling you all you have to do is work on it, and life will do the rest for you. Don't worry. Don't try to figure out what it's supposed to look like or with your limited perceptions. Don't look at setbacks as the end of the world. They were meant to happen to propel you and stretch you. Just keep working on your dream, and life will create something so much bigger than you have the ability to currently understand. The dragonfly's medicine teaches you to first surrender your need to something to be The dragonfly's medicine teaches you to first surrender your need for something to be like the limited view in your head. Second, have absolute trust that life will deliver something greater. Third, be patient. Last, get excited that something bigger than your dreams is destined for you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So I really think the message of all of this today, and I know like probably next Tuesday is election day, right? So between now and then, there's going to be so much stuff going on, so much stuff. And it's like, people have asked already, oh, dragonflies are your guides, and they send you to remind you. I love dragonflies too. They always come up at really important times. So just remember, you guys, like with all that stuff, with the corruption, with the wars, with all of those things that came up earlier in those books. And then it was like, okay, you chose this life. You can change this life. Your experience is what you experience. So, like, that example that it gave in the Conversations with God, book 1, it talks about how 2 people had the same job in the same circumstances, but one was having a better experience than the other. And it's because the state that the person is choosing to live in, they're choosing to live in the beauty of it. Like, as this stuff, like, starts to unfold over the next couple months, as this stuff starts to unfold in the next couple months, find yourself, "Oh my god, stop." The Earth card came out again. It literally flipped over. What is crazy? Isn't that crazy with these cards? Like, you choose to be a non-bitter artist, for example. Well, how about you shift it to something more positive, because if you say non-bitter, you're manifesting the word bitter still. So how about I choose to be an inspired artist. I choose to be an artist that sees the beauty in everything. Even as this stuff is going down, we want peace. We do want peace. But, let's say, for example, a tree, right? So a tree is once a seed, but that seed has to crack open and completely get destroyed and go through this whole difficult process of growing before it's this big, beautiful, peaceful, loving tree. So understand that in these moments, it could be the seed cracking. It could be this kind of difficult process of sprouting for the first hit. It's sprouting for the first time. A little seedling turned into a little sprout has a lot to overcome. But as it overcomes it, it's going to grow into this super strong, powerful tree that lives hundreds of years. The cards are like, you will receive this message, period. It's true. Especially this deck, too, this Sacred Symbols deck. It sometimes is like, I said what I said. I said what I said. Don't try to pull more cards. I said what I said. The Sacred Symbols deck is very like that. Okay, let's see if another one pops out. Yes. If something doesn't flip over, we'll take the message what it is. And I can grab one other deck that I have. Let's see what is nearby. Earth is like, hey, I know. And I really feel like this Earth card is telling us to be here, be here on Earth, be here, be in the moment. If we're seeing stuff go, the cards are like, did I stutter? Exactly. Yeah, be grounded, be here. This journey has not been easy, but this is the first genuine reading in a while. Oh, okay. Something jumped out. If it was going to be the growth card, I was going to just throw it. Okay. Even though I accept the message. Okay. But here we go. We got transformation, the butterfly. Okay. So the butterfly transformation. And we all know what this means, but let's see what the message is for us from the booklet. Transformation. The butterfly goes through many stages before it becomes the beautiful creature that it is. Honor your process. Allow your beauty to be seen by all. Wear more color to help announce the arrival of your exquisite transformation. Meditate on this when you want to call in more beauty, more grace, more acceptance during times of transition. So look at this. We had such a similar message with the dragonfly, right? We have very insect energy coming through. So we had this one, you see, sorry. This one, you see it's like the little womb nymph underwater, who then, like it says that being underwater in that little cocoon, it doesn't even know that it's going to be flying one day in a world that it doesn't even know exists. Same thing with this. The caterpillar doesn't know, as it's slowly going along the leaves, that it's going to be flying in the air. So I feel like that comes back to the message that we got earlier with the earth card. I don't the growth card as well. How it's like, be here. Like all of these were like starting in a grounded place and then they're flying. So I feel like that is the message that, like, we're here. We are here. The name of the deck, this red one, is the Sacred Symbols Oracle deck. The Sacred Symbols Oracle deck. And then this blue one is the Animal Apothecary deck. Animal Apothecary deck. Right. If anyone has any questions or anything, but I feel like this was a very interesting little message for us today. And I feel like it was needed. I feel like it was needed because there's so much stuff going on. Can you pull a card to see what the theme of the upcoming chapter in Pluto and Aquarius transit? It's going to be revolutionary, but how? Okay, let me grab a different deck for that. Okay. So let's pull from the Nature Nurture Oracle deck. Nature Nurture Oracle deck. So this is another, it's funny how many animal decks I have, right? I have 3 animal decks here. I have the Animal Apothecary, the Spirit Animal, and then the Nature Nurture deck. Not all of these are animal, they're all nature, but there's obviously a lot of animals in nature. Okay, so Pluto and Aquarius. What is the energy coming in for Pluto and Aquarius? So we have Pluto and Aquarius transiting on November 19th. November 19th is, so we're just, and this is really important. I don't know if you guys watch Leo King. You guys know I'm a fan. Earth stands, right? We're just fans of Earth here, We're very in our Earth right now. I know we're star seeds, we're cosmic, we're galactic, we're angelic beings, we're all of it. But you know what? Right now, we're on Earth. We're in some Earth stuff. We're in it. Okay, let's see if anything flips over. So I don't know if you guys watch Leo King. He did an election prediction. And one of the things that he talked about is how, oh, interesting. One of the things that he talked about, I'll pull another one too, is that our first, why can't I think of the word? Inauguration. The first ever inauguration after so they had the Declaration of Independence, but it took a while for the first president to be inaugurated. And the first inauguration happened with Pluto in Aquarius. So even though we're just coming from our Pluto return as a country with the Declaration of Independence, we are going into the first inauguration, which is interesting. My thoughts on Bashar. I have talked about that Bashar video quite a bit. Used to watch him only time, now only in small doses. He's been doing some great content. Now that he has this new studio, he's been doing a lot of really good readings. And I love that the Leo King doesn't hold back from, some of the stuff that he says. He tells you like it is, whether it's a good time for you or not. Okay, if nothing else is going to flip, then we'll just take the one card as the message. Okay, nothing is flipping here. Oh, all right. Well, sure. Okay. We got a second card. Okay, so the first card, it's interesting. They both are like the same color. So the first card that came out was the Ancestor card. The Ancestor card. Beautiful, right? Which I think is also really interesting with everything that we're talking about. The Ancestor card. Okay. The Ancestor card. Your guides, ancestor, and family of origin have some powerful knowledge to share with you. How do you listen? Hear your heart and your soul, not just with your ears, to know the message. By drawing this card, you are being asked to honor the ones who have come before you. If you are inquiring about a relationship or situation, there may be a familiar lesson here. Dig deeper to the heart of what this connection is. Alternately, this card can indicate an important teacher on your journey, a wise and knowledgeable guide. So what I'm taking this as, is it's very similar to what we just read in that last part of Conversations with God, right? Where it's like we've been going through the same lessons for thousands of years. Same thing with, all of these books talking about the Federal Reserve, the inflation, the stock market, the president having this power. They're talking about the president as being a king. And then we have all these people who believe that if Trump wins, he's going to be like a king. And, so it's interesting. We're seeing all these repeating patterns that are already here. We're going into this Pluto and Aquarius. This was the day of our first inauguration for the first president that we ever had in this country. So it's very interesting. There is this very reminiscent thing that is happening right now. And I almost feel like it's like the same thing like the book 2 said, Conversations with God book 2 said, is that this is the time. You found me through Leo King. How funny. Okay, and then the other one that came up is the hummingbird. Joy, hummingbird. Our ancestors are heavily working in our life at this time. We are honoring them. This is the time to commune with them. I agree. Okay. The hummingbird, joy, love, laughter. The hummingbird has flown into your life today to lift your heart and lift your spirit. You can be assured that by drawing this card, your heart is opening up to the presence of unconditional love. Let yourself receive the bounty of happiness that is here now and en route to you. Additionally, the appearance of the hummingbird can be a message from a loved one or a spirit guide saying hi. You know what I think I take this as? And of course, take what these however feels right for you. But I feel like all of this, the journey of souls, all of it is really telling us like this is the time. This is the time for growth. And like as this stuff is going to be going down, we already know it's going to be going down from November to inauguration day. It's going to be chaotic and going down. And we're going to have half of the country because the polls are so close. The polls are so close, whether they're true or not. Um, 50% of the country is going to be salty. 50% of the country is going to be salty regardless. So it really is up to us to like hold that positive space, hold this experience. First of all, we have an election every 4 years. I watched a channeled messages the other day and it was so funny. They asked about the election and the person with channeling was like, we hate to break it to you, but it's not that big of a deal. This happens every 4 years. It's not that big of a deal. It is what it is. The world is changing. The earth is shifting. It's all happening. All of it's coming together. Bringing in feminine energy is the whole point, according to Dolores Cannon. All right. I don't know. Dolores talks about a lot of things, but feminine energy in every way. Women are healing. Okay. So then from the Angel Wishes deck, Angel Wishes, we have being with nature will give you answers. Being with nature will give you answers. How interesting. We have so much nature coming up in everything. She tried in Atlantis and that's why they failed. I hope neither wins and aliens come down and take over and fix everything. Yep, don't let it drain your creativity. Exactly. Oh, thanks everyone. And okay, one last thing. A little wake-up call for us, okay? The Roast Iconic Oracle deck. So this is how you're going to get called out by the universe, okay? Nature is pure. Oh, nature for president. Nature for president. That's funny. Okay. Let's see. This will be our last message. Oh, thanks. Thanks, guys. So shit's gonna go down. Trust your ancestors and guides will have your back. Hang on and try to enjoy the ride. Earth is an amazing place to learn your soul's purpose. And it all makes sense. Very succinct, Ash. Roast me, universe. You were just grounding and noticed that it was live and joined the second. Oh, wow. Oh my God. Cool. Really enjoying this. Thank you for hosting the live tarot reading. Yeah, let's see. This will be our final message. This is our little get roasted by the universe. This is our little people rule themselves. Yes. See if anything flips over. If not, oh, it was you. This wasn't even a roast. This was the star seed card. Star seed card. Cute. We didn't need to get told off today. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Starseed, you aren't from here, but you live here. Existing while being embodied in the human vessel can feel like being trapped in a flesh prison, which sucks. But at least you have superpowers. Try to enjoy this Earth school as much as you can. The aliens aren't coming to help you, they are you, and they're already here. That was the perfect one. That was the perfect message. Oh, right. It really did. It brought it all together. The starseed card is like, "Well, sorry. This is what it is. You're here and you're meant to be here. And no one's coming to save us. We're saving ourselves. The aliens that are coming to save us are inside of us. Those are our souls that came here to save us. The aliens are already doing it through us." Goes back to what Journey of Souls said. We chose this life, we chose this body. I really love that part of Journey of Souls because it talks about how we all chose our life and our body, yet most people are unhappy with their body. But their soul literally chose it. And that's just something to remember is like funny how you wish the aliens would come to save us. I know. A little daunting, but also empowering. It is. You know, anyone who tells you that the aliens are coming to save us, they're lying. They're lying. It's up to us. We have Tuesday. Yes. That was a roast for some. All right. Well, you guys, this was beautiful. This was fun. I'm glad that we did this. A little something weird that we did today, but it really worked out perfectly. So I'll show the decks one more time in case anyone wants to get any of them. Animal Apothecary deck. Nature Nurture. That was one of the last ones. Roast Iconic. Get roasted by the universe. Sacred Symbols Oracle deck. Sacred Symbols Oracle deck. The Angel Wishes card. Angel Wishes. That one is just like a little word of wisdom, inspirational stuff. And then this is the mini one, but you can get the full size. The Wild Unknown Spirit Animal or Animal Spirit deck. Thanks, everybody. Remember this wisdom as we go into the next week. You know, there's going to be a lot of stuff with this election. And like I've said before, if you want to vote, vote. If you don't, don't. You're not obligated to do anything that anybody wants you to do unless you really want to do it. You know, let's not create obligation timelines. If you feel that you want to, then go ahead. And if you feel that you want to vote for someone that people in your life want you to vote for or don't want you to vote for, do it from what feels for you. And even if your feelings change, like let's say you vote for one of the people and then in a few months or a year, you don't like them anymore. You felt it was the right thing to do at the time. As long as you do what feels right to you at the time, it's literally just a game. Earth is just a game. It happens every 4 years. This is not going to be our last election. Don't believe this crazy propaganda saying that, oh, if you don't vote right, this is going to be the last election. Oh my God, please. It's been 250 years. This is not going to be our last election. And if it is, we're getting closer to the Earth shift, okay? But I don't think it's going to be, and yeah, I'm going to host one during the election night, but I don't think I'll cover the election stuff. I don't think maybe we'll have some places that are done already. Do you think there's karma attached to putting your energy behind a certain person? So the thing is karma is the law of cause and effect. It's not a punishment or a reward. It's simply cause and effect. So every decision we make has cause and effect. If you want to visit Michael. Yeah, I'm gonna do a live I'll do a live on election night, but like I said, I probably won't be talking too much about the election unless we get into some different stuff. But, I don't wanna get anyone all like, I did that video about the communism versus fascism, but like as we're getting closer, it's getting a little bit more intense. So I probably won't really talk too much about any politics or anything during. But like I said, do what feels right to you, you know? If you feel that you don't want to back either person, then don't. If there's someone that you think you want to vote for, then do it. If you like someone, do it. If you want to take the lesser of two evils, if that feels right to you, then do that. Like I'm not a fan of the lesser of two evils concept. However, there's no right or wrong answer except listening to what you feel like is right. If you listen to what should and listen to what people are bullying you or pushing you into, or maybe you feel like voting for one person because everyone else is like against them, or voting for one person because everyone's saying that who you should vote for. Either way, just follow what your self feels right. And don't worry, this is literally just like a little game that we do here. Obviously, as we know, the powers that be still control it all, right? So it doesn't really matter who's in office. But if you want to participate in the little gamey game, then do it. Love the video that you made about communism and democracy. It really opened your eyes to the real game going on, right? And if you want to roast marshmallows with other star seeds and nerd out on Jen's Tuesday Night Live, do it. Exactly. Exactly. You know? And you don't have to tell anyone who you're voting for, whether you're voting, whether you're not. It is what it is. And it's like whatever feels right to you is totally what's right for you. And also, one last note on that, be understanding of other people's decisions as well. That's the other thing. Be understanding of other people's decisions as well. You know, everyone is voting in the way that they think is the right thing to do. You don't feel represented at all, so voting doesn't feel right for me. And exactly, don't let anyone guilt you into saying, you know what pisses me off? Because I don't vote most of the time. Sometimes I vote, sometimes I don't. It just depends how I'm feeling. I still haven't, but I probably will, but maybe I won't. I don't know. I haven't made a decision. However, a lot of times I don't vote because like I said, I don't like the lesser of two evils thing. Sometimes I feel like it though. Sometimes I do feel like the lesser of two evils. But um this whole thing of not voting, and then they say, "Oh, the non-voters are the ones who decide the election." Don't let them. That's like that Bashar video. That's like that Bashar video. When Bashar, the woman says, "Who's gonna win the election?" And he's like, "Do you wanna take responsibility for everything that happens because of this?" No. It's not that woman's fault for asking a question. Like, don't let people blame you for that. Like, don't let people blame you for something. If you made the decision to abstain from something, you're not responsible for two political parties doing the same shit they've been doing for 250 years, okay? And if you do wanna vote, then feel good about doing it. None of this fear-mongering stuff. What's gonna happen is gonna happen, you know? And we're here to be here for the ride, to enjoy the experience of being human, to go through the emotions. The pointed fingers, yeah. Bashar hasn't felt right recently. Yeah, like, that's the thing. Honestly, I can't say what Bashar should say, but that's what Bashar should be saying, is he talks about that protocol about really following what excites you and following what makes you feel good, but then tells you your options are basically the apocalypse or aliens, make your choice, and that it's this chick in the audience's fault for the way it turns out. Like, no. Like, he has a whole protocol about following what makes you feel good and what makes you feel excited, and to only follow the path of the things that truly light you up. So then don't get political about it. If you are going to say that the right thing to do is to follow what lights you up, to follow what you think is the right thing to do, to follow your heart, then that means sometimes people aren't going to vote. Or sometimes people are going to vote for someone and then 3 years later feel like they didn't like that candidate. Every starseed has their own agenda, and we should focus on ours and trust our own guides. Yes. What's gonna happen has already happened, so just do you. Right. Yeah, that was weird that he said that. You got greedy vibes when you watched him on Emilio Ortiz's show. I haven't seen that, although he is creating escape rooms, which is cool. Who's it creating escape rooms? Bashar? But that's the thing. In 2016, I was a very big Bernie supporter. I love Bernie to death. I just watched him on Lex Friedman. When I see Bernie, I'm like, "That's a politician. That's the politician we deserve," you know? And I mean others too. I love Tulsi Gabbard too. When I look at Tulsi Gabbard speak, I'm like, "That's the politicians we deserve." But, you know, when Bernie was screwed over by the Democratic Party in 2016, I didn't vote. And then you had people trying to say that people like me or people like Jill Stein voters, which I didn't like Jill Stein either, and I wouldn't vote for her either, but, like, people who didn't vote or voted for Jill Stein are the reason we got Trump. No. The reason they got Trump is because he identified with a part of the oh, see, I got the election warning now. Now, learn about elections. I got the warning. I'm probably gonna get my ban soon. But, that's the thing is, like, no, you're not gonna blame it on the people who did what they felt was right. Blame it on the people who are actually doing what they're doing. Part of the reason why Trump won is because he was identifying with an angry that's why it should have been Bernie, because Bernie also identified with that disgruntled, sick of the way things are type of person. That's why it should have been and I wrote this article that I submitted to all these things. I submitted it to Washington Post, Huffington Post in 2015 as the election was coming up. I said that I wrote this article and it got rejected by everything. I submitted it to all of these places and I felt like I was hurt because I felt like, oh, it wasn't written good enough. Now I truly see the truth of it is that like, oh, y'all were not ready for that opinion, which is it was an article comparing Trump and Bernie and how they're both identifying with the same emotion that is happening in the country, but people on different sides of the political spectrum who think the solution is different. So basically, Bernie and Trump both were resonating to the same feeling, but had different solutions. And they rejected all of my things. Now I see, why. It's because it was very biased. However, meaning these newspapers are all very biased and they did not want to publish an article that was saying that, but it's the truth. That's why Trump won. And then also part of the reason he won is because they put Hillary Clinton in there and she was the most hated candidate in like all of history that we can in recent history, the most hated candidate in recent history. Of course, you can't blame people who didn't vote for people hating Hillary and you rigging a Democratic primary to push Bernie out to put someone that someone hates in instead. So so again, with this stuff too, like with what's gonna come up in this election, if Kamala Harris wins, if Trump wins, some other ayahuasca told me that Kamala's gonna win. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe everything that Mother Aya told me in this last one. You feel like Trump is a light worker who can manifest. I don't know if he's a light worker, but I think he is a master manifester. He may be a light worker. I don't know what his soul's journey is. Trump has a mission on this planet, whether people like it or not, that is big, whether you like it for good or for bad, because no one has the reaction like him. So the people who hate him get this visceral reaction. The people who love him get this visceral reaction. The people who hate him look at him and say, he shouldn't be allowed to say that. He must be silenced. And then people who love him are saying he should be people should hear what he has to say. So it's very interesting that he brings a reaction out of millions of people all around the world. So there's definitely something to that. I don't know if it's a light worker, but there is some large collective lesson that he has some soul contract on this planet about, right? There is some soul contract that he has that is very intense on this planet. And whatever that is, we won't know until we're all dead and gone and back on the other side. Will we know what his soul contract truly was? But yeah, someone says it's toxic though. But to you, it's toxic. To someone else, it's inspiring. That's the thing is it's a very intense uh spectrum of how he impacts people and impacts them on such a deep level. Literally, this man just getting on a podium causes such an intense reaction from so many people. It is so extreme. Like, it's almost like who else is another person that has very intense reactions like that? Like maybe Michael Jackson. you know, like another person that has a very intense soul contract with this planet that causes a lot of different reactions that are all very extreme, maybe like a Michael Jackson person, you know, like Kanye. Yeah, Kanye, I could see having another, you were crushed when Bernie didn't get the Democratic ticket. Me too. And then even more crushed in 2020 when they put Biden in, even though and I covered on my Instagram story, I wasn't posting stuff like this, but I covered, all the stuff that happened during the Democratic primary very closely, and it was just, come on. They put the 2 least popular people of that whole Democratic primary. People loved Bernie. People loved Elizabeth Warren. I wasn't really a fan of Elizabeth Warren, but people loved her. Amy Klobuchar, people loved. Pete Buttigieg, people loved. People liked Tulsi. People loved Andrew Yang. Biden was so unliked during that primary. And then the only other person who was like more unliked than Biden was Kamala Harris, who had to drop out before it even started the primary. This is how you know this is about um same thing. Bernie won like 24 states in the primary between Hillary, and it was she ended up being put as the candidate. It goes to show that this is not about popularity. It's not about, especially in the Democratic Party, it's not about popularity. It's about whoever's turn it is, who's ever paid the dues and fits the agenda that they want to put forth. Yeah, Bernie was robbed. I loved that, I loved the Lex Friedman interview that he just did. Did you ever look at the old book about Barron that makes it seem like he was a time traveler? Yeah, I did. So I haven't read the whole book. I did, a lot of research on it, though. So there's this book called Baron Trump, The Time Traveler, and the guy who wrote it wrote 3 books. So it's 2 books about Baron Trump from the 1800s. And then the 3rd book is called The Last President, but it's not about Baron Trump. But just this guy's 3 books are all this story. And then so basically, whose turn is it this time? Right. We'll find out. So in that like time traveler book, it's about this kid, Baron Trump, and he time travels and Um, one of the things that's really interesting is that he goes into inner Earth and meets the ant people. And then the 3rd book, which is not part of the series, but it's called The Last President, is very interesting because it takes place in New York City and there's corruption that is happening. And all of these people say in New York City, they try to overturn the government because of this corruption, and they all march down Fifth Avenue to this hotel, which is crazy because then Trump is in New York and his, Trump Tower is in Fifth Avenue, and there's a lot of stuff, and the whole book of The Last President is about the battle between the elites and the working class. Now, when you really look and like I said, I didn't read all 3 of these books. I just, like, did a lot of research on them, and, it's not that close that it's, like, prophetic. It's not, like, that close that it's, like, telling the future, you know? It's not that level. And I don't think it's crazy to think that there will be a class war between, the elites and the working class. None of those things are crazy to assume. But I also do believe that w when was the book about Baron Trump written? Like 18 something, late 1800s? About 100 years ago, you know, give or take, maybe early 1900s, but I think it was the late 1800s. So it's more like The Simpsons. Yeah, where it's likely and then it becomes true. Yeah, but then there's also this level of, is it co-creation with the universe? Is writing it into existence? Or is writing a form of remote viewing? Oh, right, he has a mentor called the Dawn in the books, that's true. Mhm. So, you know, When I was, like, 10 years old, I went to this, WWF at the time. It wasn't WWE yet. I went to this WWF event with my mom and my mom's boyfriend. My mom's boyfriend at the time was a ticket scalper, and so he was, scalping tickets, like, back in the day before it was all on these websites. He would camp out, get the tickets, get these, like, front row seats and a bunch of other seats, and then resell them at a markup, and then also would go to these events and sell or upsell better seats to people outside of the arena. So it was at Madison Square Garden, and we went to this WWF event. I think it was like a Royal Rumble. I'm pretty sure it was a Royal Rumble. Um, and so my mom's boyfriend had front row seats to this event, but didn't sell them. And so we were up in the nosebleeds, up in like the 400s or whatever, me, my mom, and then with her boyfriend. But then her boyfriend kept going down to the front row. So he would come up and hang out with us and then go down to the front row. And he said to me, he's like, "Do you want to go down to the front row?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course I want to go down to the front row." So I'm like 10 years old. He takes me down to the front row, and I'm there, like, in the front row, not for long. I didn't stay, like, the whole thing. I stayed for, like, one fight, but I'm down in the front row of the Royal Rumble, and then I look, and I'm, like, a few seats away from Trump, and I was like, "It's Donald Trump." 'Cause, I felt like in Home Alone, how, like, when he sees Donald Trump in the city and he's like, "Oh my god, it's Donald Trump." That's how I felt when I was 10 years old, and I was like, I remember looking at him and being like, "Oh my god, that's Donald Trump." So it is so crazy that, like, we have these, like, weird little experiences, these moments in our life, and then it's like, that person became president after that, and then end up being, like, one of the most divisive people in our world at this time. You said Kamala is Obama's cousin. All the presidents are cousins. Hillary and Trump are cousins. Every single president is related. They're all cousins. They're all ninth cousins, every single one. Kamala, I haven't seen her genealogy prove that she is um, related, but also the guy who used to do it's called the royal blood theory. Is that what it's called? Or most royal blood theory? This guy was a master genealogist, and he basically did the percentages of every single election and said whichever president has a higher concentration of royal blood will win every election. And he was right every single time. It always worked out. There was never a time where the person with more royal blood lost up until 2008, where he died right before the election, the guy who was the one that did all of this. So, if that's the case, then Trump's definitely winning this, right? If that's the case, then Trump has more royal blood probably than, Kamala, because Kamala's family, we don't know a ton. Um, we don't know what the lineage kind of before Jamaica and Ireland are, so we don't know a lot about her lineage. So, yeah, not Martin Van Buren. He's the only one who was not that he didn't have any royal blood, but Martin Van Buren was the only one that wasn't a descendant of one of the King Henrys. Oh god, Halloween girl, get a hold of yourself. I'm sorry someone says Trump without using the word Nazi. Like, if you're gonna be that immature to not even have someone be able to have a conversation about 2 candidates, especially when I'm talking about he's probably going to win because of the royal blood theory. Honestly, I can't deal with the immaturity of the propaganda and how it's infected people's brains. The propaganda is out of control on both sides. It has infected people's brains that they are actually not able to critically view anything in real life anymore. And for people here on YouTube, it's someone saying, "Oh my God, JK's a Trumper. I'm so sad. I'm unfollowing. Goodbye." Like, oh my God, get a grip. Get a grip. Someone says the TDS over here. It's like, if we can't talk I about 2 candidates in a neutral way, you know? I'm not spewing any political stuff here. I'm talking about a conspiracy that was proven true. That was proven true many times. Mhm. Your son is 25% white and Caribbean, and he's related to a Belgian king. Yeah, so that's the thing is we don't know a ton about Kamala's history, so we don't know what her lineage is, if she has more royal blood. I mean, Trump has a lot of royal blood. It's as heated as the old vaccine conversations. I know. It really is. Um, and it's interesting too, like, I was just, like, kinda going through my following list on, Instagram, and it's crazy how many people I know unfollowed me. I'm like, "Damn, at least remove me as a follower." But I don't know what it was along the way. Was it me talking about the vaccine? Was it me talking about how I think a lot of the people that unfollowed me is because I posted that both parties are so similar. Because I think I had, like, about 3,000 people unfollow me on Instagram when I posted that video. Yeah. We need to be a family next week and chat about love. I agree. Do your values align with Trump? My values don't align with any of these political parties. They're literally half-witted things. My values, I've spoken about my values many times. You know, I've talked about all of these topics. Do do you think that the values of these politicians align with consciousness, soul's ascension, reincarnation, earth school, alien souls? Do you think that their views align with mine? Yeah, my values align with earth. I love that. Exactly. So sad people are on this cancel culture thing because of some different views. Like, come on, it's true. And it's like also, it's like the views are you said Tucker Carlson aligned. So the thing is, I also don't agree with what Tucker Carlson says because he believes that the aliens are demons. You know, he believes that these I like that he talks about some of the alien stuff, so I'll still post about it. I don't care. Elon posts about it, Zuckerberg posts about it. I don't care. I'm gonna it makes no difference to me. You have a better chance of aligning with Harris than Christian nationalists. Well, this is what I mean. If you're gonna look at the people on the opposite side of the political spectrum as someone saying some are demons, if both sides are going to look at the other side like they're genuinely bad people, then we're not getting anywhere, guys. Like, we are not getting anywhere. There is no soul ascension in thinking people who think differently than us are demons. Everyone has their own reason for their own political beliefs. Everyone has their reasoning, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person on either side. Everybody has a reason for their opinions, for their experience. Oh, you're talking about the aliens being demons, not Democrats. I thought you were talking about Democrats being demons. I'm like, now everybody's going too far here. Okay. Everybody going a little too far here. Elon doesn't even believe that there's aliens here. Takes away your rights. You got to stop the propaganda, my friend. The propaganda machine is a vicious, vicious thing because at the end of the day, the policies of the elite are getting through. And whether they need to get it through the Democrats or they need to get it through the Republicans, why do they want to stop what you can do? What are you not going to be able to do that you can do now in America? Like, what are you going to not be able to do? We tend to forget that we are on an evolutionary journey. People change their minds all the time. It's part of the journey. Canceling someone for a version of them that might just be that might just last a minute is silly. It's true. People are always growing. You left the US, interesting. Where did you go? Lack of women's health care is not propaganda. You know, there's a lot of stuff around the women's topic. I think everybody should be allowed to do whatever they want. If somebody believes that they should have an abortion, they should be allowed to, in my opinion. If somebody believes that it's wrong, they should make that decision and have the baby. Uh, I think everything should be a personal choice. However, you know, but Trump doesn't believe what you stated. Why is this about Trump in this way that like Trump doesn't believe it? I mean, as far as I see, they're saying it's going to be to the states. So then each state votes. Why are you guys like full-term abortion is murder? I know people who have had late-term abortions because of issues that they were having. And where I grew up in New Jersey, there is no term limit. It's one of the only places that there's no term limit. So a lot of people say that it doesn't happen. A lot of people on the left say it doesn't happen. This chat is going insane. I know people got infected. People got infected in the chat. The TikTok chat got infected. But for people to say that there is no late term abortions is also not true. There are. I do know someone when we were minors, when I was a kid, someone that was in my same age group who had one. And then, however, that decision, the election warning went away. I know once things got super heated and people started saying all this crazy stuff about Trump, the thing went away. That was interesting that the thing only comes up when I say Kamala. But that's the thing is the person that I know that had to go through that experienced so much trauma because of that experience. She was underage. She had a late term abortion because she was pressured into it by doctors. And I have so much compassion for her and I love her to death, you know? And so anything can happen to anyone. Anyone ends up in these situations. And it's like both sides go to the extreme because then people say that these late term things are not happening. They are happening and they're very tragic. But they're not most of the time, that's not the case at all. Majority of the time, that's not the case. Like 99.99% of the time, it's not the case because one of the only places that don't have term limits is New Jersey, where I grew up. So, yeah, it's a separation tactic. Whoever wins the presidency doesn't matter. Two wings of the same bird. Exactly. Extremism is really lowbrow. You don't understand how people see it. Yeah. Unconventional love for all. Yeah. Unconditional love. You just want peace. The only one who can lead you to peace is yourself, not Trump or Kamala. I agree. We need to have compassion for all that live from our hearts, and will eventually happen. It's a very small percentage, and it's an extremely sad circumstance. It is. It's extremely sad. Here to play. You've always aligned with you, and this furthers it. You're saying what I think. Oh, thanks, Kayla. But I also believe that everybody should be able to vote for whoever they want to vote for. And if they want to vote, vote. If you don't, don't. There's no right answer. It's literally every 4 years a game. And, this election is, really having a lot of focus on women's rights. But then it's like, okay, well, let's really fight for women's rights for real, you know? And, you know, you guys may or may not know, but one of my best friends is trans. So I don't mean this towards the community as a whole, but like the UN just put out a report today that says 900 medals in women's sports were lost to trans people. And this is coming from the UN, not from. So it's like when it comes to women's rights, then let's talk about women's rights for everything. And I 100% believe trans people are valid and should be loved and should be treated like everybody else. But then we also, have to, women fought for the sports as well. And everything is a nuanced place. And you're not going to catch me polarized on either side. I'm always gonna be in the middle. I'm always gonna be somewhere that doesn't fit on the left or on the right because, you know, it really is something. So let's fight for all of women's rights, including women's rights to sports, you know? And, the trans friends that I have don't believe that they should compete against women. And this is coming from their opinion of what they've told me. So both sides need to figure it out and stop being so divisive. Babe, sitting in the middle doesn't have you fighting for anything. Babe, listen, little spicy rainbow girl or boy or they, them. Uh, if you think I'm not fighting for anything when every single day what I post about is what I care about, not the regurgitation of propaganda from a two-party system which only serves the elites. You can fight for the propaganda of one side or the other. But for me, what I care about is the soul, the ascension of this planet, helping people learn their purpose in this life, people coming to a more balanced place. So I'm sorry if you want to say I don't fight for nothing. No, I don't fight for the regurgitation of divisive materials and things that literally bounce back and forth. You can say you support and fight for women and sit in the middle. Oh, shut up, please. No, I do. I fight for individuals as human beings every single day. And I will not be bullied into how. Look at my page. Look at my page. I know. This person is probably very young. I know. You're right, you guys. I'm probably fighting with someone that's a teenager. You're right. You're right. I'm probably fighting with a teenager. You're right. I'm not accusing anyone of bullying. I don't resort to those things. I know what real bullying is. No, it's not about bullying. It's about I fight for what I actually care for. And I'm writing a whole book about women. And I'm literally writing my book coming out next year is about women. And I've been working on stuff around women's perspective of who they are in this world, not being coming from the outside, but women taking what's inside of them and being allowed to express it and not being pushed into believing the outside world. All these people here that are supposedly are following JK aren't listening to the message that I've been saying. Exactly. Trying to understand because I can't understand how much hate one side spews about women. Babe, both sides hate women. This is unfortunately the world that we live in. Women are still hated by both sides. Women are not even allowed to call ourselves women anymore. We're only allowed to call ourselves women when it comes to abortion. But every other time, I had people when I posted my moon book that I created a menstrual tracker, which I have talked about for women for how long. I created a whole entire workbook for women to heal and connect with their menstruation and to connect with their body and connect with nature and be able to use their intuition and their natural instincts. And I had people in my comments calling me transphobic for creating it. It really is extreme on both sides. Both sides have gone too far. And that's the thing, is like, what? Yes, I literally have been talking about periods for how long? Part of my thing that I bring up every single day in every single live is about women's periods and changing the way that we view it. How are women hated by both sides? Well, People are saying that they're hated because of the abortion. I think that women are hated because women are not allowed to fully express themselves in the sense of like the conservatives go too far as well. They think that women need to be feminine and need to be one type of way, and that a woman that goes outside of the norm is somehow less. And then the liberals hate women because you're not even allowed to call yourself a woman. I need to use cisgendered women and I need to include everybody in women's issues and I need to include everyone in women's sports so that some people's feelings aren't hurt. Both sides genuinely push down women all the time and don't care about real women's rights. Both sides are constantly imposing on women, and that is what it is, you know? And if you think that the left cares about women, then why are they saying that women don't have the right to their own sports? And the thing is, like, and like I said, I know I don't need this disclaimer 10 different times, but it's like, yeah, telling women who we are, telling us how we're allowed to identify, how we're allowed to talk, how we're allowed to describe ourselves. If I put out my moon book about women's menstruation, all of these people saying that it was transphobic to not include trans men in the book. I ain't fighting for trans men. I'm fighting for women, women with their periods, and some women without their periods. But it's like distinction that they are not willy-nilly. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Wrote a my whole workbook is about how to hack the women's menstrual cycle. Exactly. Yep, they wanna make us talk about ourselves in a very specific way. You think that Iran is headed to how you think the US is heading to how Iran was in the '70s. You know, it's an interesting thing to bring up Iran while we're on this topic is in Iran, it's illegal to be gay. So you're forced transitioned. Until recently, Iran was the trans capital of the world because you were sinning by being gay. So they forced you to transition. So it's like, this is what they're doing to kids right now. Like, can't kids just be gay? You know, my brother's gay. Everybody suspected it. But because he's feminine and doesn't have these ideas, you know, he maybe would have if he was growing up today, they would have said that maybe he's not a boy. And my brother is very much a man now, a gay man, but he's very much a man. So it's like both sides are extreme. Both sides are extreme. It is what it is. Your son is gay too. And that's the thing is like we also need to protect gay kids from getting forced into things like it is Iran. In Iran, you basically will die or transition. And that's literally the verbiage that is being used right now, that if your kid doesn't transition, they're gonna kill themselves. This is very getting like Iran, and it's not only coming from the right, it's coming from the left as well. And I do think that the left and the right are both doing things that could be going in that direction on different topics. And this is because for the 100th time, it's two wings of the same bird. It is two wings of the same bird. Mhm. How can we find a middle ground collectively? If you had a choice back when you were younger, you would have transitioned, but now you love you and your body. Yeah. Just let people be who they are and stop forcing labels. I agree. Humans evolve and change over time. I agree. I think, you know, how do we find a middle ground is I think the first thing is that you have to start seeing the other side as being human and having their reasons for believing the way that they believe, you know? Because and this happens in all these different communities. In the love and light, the people who are about the love and light are the first ones to call things demons, negative, dark forces, evil, serving the dark. In religion, we have Christians. Immediately, they're the ones that are supposed to be loving. You're a demon, satanic, going to hell. And then the left does the same thing. They say that they are the ones who care about everybody and want equality, but then literally think that people who disagree with them should be deplatformed. Like this person who, just because I didn't talk about Trump negatively, said, "Oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I'm unfollowing you right now." It's like the people who believe that they are good people are actually usually some of the most intolerant people in everything, in spirituality, in religion, in politics, in all of it. That's part of it, is if you see yourself 100% of the light, I'm 100% good, I'm God's favorite, I'm the first to heaven, I'm the good person. All of those things are actually because you're not looking at parts of yourself. The middle ground is realizing everyone and everything is connected and serves a purpose. Exactly. The dark is just as valuable as the light. Yin and yang is the balance and the middle ground. We are all equal but one. You think we're on this planet to experiment and play with the perspective. I agree. I know. Yeah, the most vocal people politically are the absolute worst interpersonally. I will never forget this one girl who I know, who got pretty big on TikTok. But I know her in real life. I used to manage a restaurant and she was one of the servers. She goes off about politics and all of this stuff. She's left leaning and she goes off about politics and equality and all of this stuff on social media. I was her manager in a restaurant, and she got fired for stealing tips from the bussers. Stealing tips from the bussers. The bussers are usually coming from Mexico. They usually, by 45 years old, already have grandkids. And this is not a generalization. These are based on all of the whole busing team that we had. They work hard as hell. They make the least amount of the tips because they're getting tipped out from the servers. So they're only getting a percentage of the servers' tips. So they're working hard as hell. They're making a fraction of the money that the servers are making. The servers are making like over 50% of their tips and then giving like 10%, 15% to the bussers. This girl was pocketing tips so that she wouldn't have to tip out the bussers. And she's all online and I see her all the time. She got pretty big on TikTok and like I know her in real life. And it enrages me to see her talk about this because I couldn't it kills me to see because I'm like, you literally stole from Jorge. Like you literally we had 3 guys named Jorge on the bussers team. So all 3 Jorges you freaking stole from. And then you're here talking about equality when you literally are pocketing tips when like these people that are the bussers, they have families. This girl had no kids, what, is spending it on lattes, and he has kids and grandkids and a whole household to take care of, and you're literally taking the little bit of the money that he had. So, a lot of times these people who portray themselves as, like, purely good are not, and I see it all the time. And it's interesting because I know, because I live in LA, a lot of people that I know have become it's interesting, we worked in restaurants together, and now we all kinda got big on different social media, um, platforms. And they're all different, like, activists for different things, which is very interesting. It feels weird, like, if someone was to say, "How did you guys all work together?" That this is probably a psyop or something that, like, how did we all work in these same restaurants together? And then these people, is an activist for this, is an activist for this, is for this. You would think it was some type of intelligence thing, but I think it's just people congregate together. Maybe there's soul missions or some energy or something, kind of like how all of these big directors all went to film school together. So it is interesting to me, like, but a lot of, like, some of these other people who are in other spaces online, I'm like, it would be so crazy if people knew that we all worked together at some point in a restaurant. But I think it's also because people in LA, um, have an inclination to, uh they're not super big, like, not super big that you would know them by, like, their name, but you see these people popping up. 6 degrees of separation from Jen instead of Kevin Bacon. I have a crazy thing with the 6 degrees of separation. My friend always used to joke that I'm 2 degrees of separation from everybody. It's true. I have a lot of the connection to things. LARPing as good people. They're also the first to argue, right? Authenticity is the magnet. And you know what's the real magnet? Gratitude. Gratitude is the magnet. So this is what we all need to tap into. 6 degrees of separation from the 3 Jorges. Right. I loved my Jorges. You said conservatives in California can't be authentic. I don't know. I know people on all sides of the political spectrum. Sometimes they can't express it if they're in certain environments, but if you go to Orange County, they're loud and proud. Gratitude is the magnet and validation is the hack to healing. Interesting, yeah. Self-validation. Yeah, depending on where they live. Authentic is bigger than gratitude. Yeah. But universally, gratitude is it. Authentic online, being authentic online makes more people gravitate towards you. But in the universe, having all of the gifts of the universe is really gratitude. What's the restaurant that you managed? I managed a few, um, but Isabel and Laurel Hardware are 2 of them. Okay, yeah, this'll be, a rich lady that just turned in her Tesla because she hates Trump. Oh, that's interesting. Um, they say those Teslas, I've heard mixed things, but that they're maybe not safe to be in for a long time, you know? That it might not be safe to stay in for a very long period of time with the giant battery, that there might be some EMF stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I like my car. My car is from 2016, so I have a turnkey. So it's not a button to start, it's a turnkey, and I'm gonna keep that as long as I can because I like, I feel like I'm in control of it. Okay. Okay, this will be what I end on. How to navigate polarity and stay neutral. I talked about this today on a podcast that I'll post when it comes out. And it was actually the host's point, but it's something that I've talked about also from the ayahuasca is seeing that everybody was once a child. The host said it, but the ayahuasca also showed me this. And I've talked about this in my ayahuasca videos. Like everybody was once a child. Everybody is a child of the same universe, of the same God, of all of this stuff. So if you see someone on the other side of the political spectrum, realize that they were also a child. They were also a person. Everybody has their reasons for their different beliefs. And, I've talked about this before. It does get some people upset, but like, look at Israel and Palestine, right? The people in Israel genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing. The people in Gaza who are supporting Hamas genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. The people on both sides of everything always think they're doing the right thing. Nobody or rarely do people purposely think they're doing the wrong thing. So like that's I think where we come to more neutrality in our beliefs. Maybe the world is not going to be coming into neutrality. Maybe Israel and Palestine are not going to come to an agreement. Hopefully they do. But to us, to realize both sides believe that they are doing the right thing for themselves, for their people, for their religion, for their stuff. Like that is an important thing to remember because you said earlier you weren't sure if you believed in Mother Aya's messages this time around. So I believe my first experience with ayahuasca, it was like the hermetic laws, the laws of the universe, all of this very profound stuff. The second group of times that I did ayahuasca, some of the messages I still am processing. Like it told me to go make amends with my father, and then my father ran out of the thing, almost running my sister over into coming into traffic. So I was like, "Why did you guide me to do this?" The ayahuasca told me be a lesbian, but I'm also like, I'm not seeing the women I'm attracted to. Okay. Um, w- and also, why do I have to run away from what I have been attracted to? You know, also it told me Kamala's going to win. Trump might win. I don't know. I talked about it. I said, whoever wins is whoever wins. Either way, I accept whatever the outcome of whatever is. And I believe that we're on the highest timeline. So I don't care whoever wins, but it's kind of looking based on the world right now, based on the polls, based on the early voting, it looks like Trump's probably going to win. So it is making me wonder if the messages that I got in this second group of the ayahuasca was as true as the first time. Perspective is a gift to help you see that you aren't doing the right thing. Perspective is perspective, and it's always changing. So, perspective can be a gift, perspective can be a curse. Perspective is perspective. It just in general, you know, everything is mapped out for each and every one of us, and we all made our choices a long time ago. I agree. Did you talk about what happened at the family reunion? I did. I did talk about what happened at the family reunion, and it was not quite of a reunion. Um, No, my dad ran out of there and refused to talk to me. So it was interesting. A lot of the things that the ayahuasca guided me to do after this last set of ceremonies, I don't know. If it's, and also someone had told me about an experience that they had with ayahuasca where it told them to pursue this relationship. But then this relationship ended up being very catastrophic for them. Yes, it led to some lessons, but it wasn't really the easier path. So it made me think about it after hearing this person's story and knowing this. And I was like, why did the ayahuasca guide you to go into this relationship that ended up becoming abusive? I see that it was part of this person's soul journey and that they had a soul contract and there's different messages that they needed from that. And it was an experience that they needed to have. And there was probably a soul contract, but it put them through hell. And they've been needing a lot of healing from that. So, you know, also hearing that, I'm kinda like, well, sometimes maybe ayahuasca is guiding us towards the lessons we need versus the most comfortable, beautiful outcome, you know? Mhm. Does that not concern you that it doesn't seem true? Um, Concerned? Hmm. I accept whatever, you know? It is what it is. Find a new spirit guide? I don't know what that was about, but imagine you're like, "You know what? I don't like these answers. Find me a new spirit guide. Send somebody else." Your higher self will want you to get the lessons. Maybe Aya does the same. That's what I think too. Is these messages what came through my first experience was like the hermetic principles. The stuff that's all in the hermetic principles, what I just read, it was everything that ayahuasca told me. So it was crazy. It told me like the rules of the universe the first time. In the second grouping, it was all personal or more personal. And I don't know if it's going to play out in the way that it plays out. Sometimes messages come from the ego and not Aya, and they are mistaken as messages from Aya. That's possible too. Um, Although the things that it told me were not things I wanted to do. Um, I didn't want to make amends with my father. I didn't want to become a lesbian. I didn't, the election, I didn't, it's whatever. But it basically told me like it's losing either way. Whoever wins loses, whoever loses loses. It's a sinking ship. That was different, because but the stuff about me, about my personal life was not stuff that I wanted to do. Do you think this is a lesson for humanity fighting for it, for us to seek informed consent? Seems Trump and Elon was in seems Trump and Elon was in on this many years before. I don't know what that means. Um, I don't know a ton about Elon, but I know, there's that clip of him from the 2020 election saying that he would never vote for Trump and that he was donating to Biden. So, I don't know. I don't know about the years before because he was a Biden supporter in the last election. It's been interesting to see a lot of, because also Zuckerberg too. Zuckerberg was very for the Democratic Party, and then all of a sudden went and apologized to Trump for the for the censorship. And then also Jeff Bezos has recently not allowed the Washington Post to endorse Kamala Harris and not give an endorsement. So it's been really interesting watching this go, this weird unfolding of a lot of these people who he's scared of prison. I mean, I don't know, but it's been interesting watching this shift that has happened recently and just observing. And I think that's the other thing to remember in this like neutrality is that people's opinions change. Like that's the thing is you can't get polarized because people's opinions change as quick as that. Look at all of these people in the public eye that we've watched their opinions change. JD Vance hated Trump and now he's, his vice president and biggest supporter. We had all these people who were all for, Trump originally, people that worked for him who now won't endorse him. So we see in the public eye all of these people switching their opinions. So it's like to really judge people based on their opinions, like what Sandra was saying earlier, is like we everyone's opinions are constantly changing. So it's like to determine people based on their opinions that are going to change. Everybody changes. Oh, look, we got the election warning back. Yeah. So yeah, find some neutrality. And like we said earlier in this is like we said earlier is that like all of this stuff is coming up. Remember you're here on earth, you're here to experience this. It really comes down to the way that you want to perceive it. Do you want to perceive this in a way that you're miserable? The way that you're constantly fighting, the way that you are upset all the time, the way that you feel victimized? Or do you want to enjoy life in a way that is okay? This is the experience that I'm meant to have. And how about I see with new eyes in this experience? So, that's something that has been great for me that it's like, okay, whatever is happening in the world, whatever is going down, I can look at it and feel victimized by it, like, say, as a woman, because, that was the thing that came up earlier. It's like I could feel victimized as a woman, or I can feel I'm a human being and I'm here. Like the starseed card came out, and it's like, we're the ones here to save ourselves. And I can also look at this experience of like, okay, this is how it's unfolding. This is bringing the stuff to the surface, and I've talked about it many times with the wars that are going on. We've had this, um, the TikTok chat is too wild. I know I'm going to be finishing soon. Um, so like a pimple, there's toxins underneath the surface, and eventually those toxins will come out and form a pimple. And then a pimple, it's ugly, it's painful, it's full of pus. If you squeeze it too hard, you can scar, you can spread bacteria and cause yourself to break out more. This is what's happening on Earth at this time. And if we really observe what's happening as this is the toxins coming to the surface. This is thousands of years of toxins in our species coming to the surface. And how do you wanna handle it? Do you wanna squeeze it to the point it bleeds? Do you wanna squeeze it to the point that you scar? Do you wanna squeeze it to the point that you cause more pimples? Or are we gonna ride this ugly, painful thing out and allow it to burst on its own, allow it to run its course, and know that it is going to heal? And that's what's happening in the world right now. So it is what it is. We gotta do what we do. And that's what I really think all of these cards and the book and everything, and even this conversation that has come up after is telling us is like, you know, this pimple has to pop and run its course and it has to do what it does. And, you know, there does need to be people. Thanks, Tom. There does need to be people who So much more chill than the TikTok chat. I know, right? So there is people who maybe their purpose is to be screaming on one side or screaming on the other side and fighting and making a lot of, my friend used to say back in the day, banging pots and pans. Because like when you were younger, like before, you know, like for New Year's Eve, you would like go outside and bang pots and pans. So like I always had a friend that would say that like, oh, they're just banging pots and pans. Like they're just trying to, do what they're gonna do, get a little of attention, make some noise. And but then there's also people here that have to anchor and hold the space for neutrality, and you can have your opinions. Neutrality doesn't mean you don't have opinions. I obviously have opinions, but my opinions supposed piss off both sides, right? Because you were talking about women, and I'm like, yeah, women should be allowed to have abortions. And if it is medical, then it can come when it comes. It is what it is. But then at the same time that I'm like, yeah, but then women need to have their sports protected. So it's like that's why I piss off both sides all the time. And I'm gonna keep doing that. Really enjoyed this live. Oh, thanks for the tarot and the election. All right. TikTok was draining my energy. I felt so negative. I feel the energy is better on YouTube. Oh. Okay, guys. Well, I will see you for election day on next Tuesday. Like I said, vote if you want. If you don't. If you like one of the candidates, do it. If you believe in the lesser of two evils, go for it. Do what it is. You're not obligated to tell anyone who you voted for. You can keep it private. You could scream it from the rooftops if you want to. Do what you got to do. Live your life. You're an individual soul on this planet and you can do whatever you want to do. And then my international people watching like really like watching from the best seat in the house. May the odds be in our favor. Love your energy. Thanks for chatting. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks everybody. All right. See you guys next Tuesday. Bye.